So I'm going to try to smash a sacred cow here. John 14 can be daunting, but I want to get through it if possible, as fast as possible. uh, this Many people have, number one, taken this to be a rapture passage, and it is not. It is a resurrection passage. Um, we like it to be a rapture passage because it fits nicely with the Jewish marriage feast idea if you just take the first 2 or 3 verses and ignore the rest. Now, I do believe in the pre tribulation rapture, obviously. There's plenty of support for it, and I don't need to get it from here. Um, so that's the first thing. The second thing is we have a materialistic concept of heaven. That's a hangover from the um, marriage of the state with the church, and that brought the infiltration of a lot of pagan ideas of Valhalla, and we like to think that there's a mansion in heaven, and we think Jesus is in heaven. And if you were to go to heaven and be real quiet, you could hear Jesus, the carpenter, in the background hammering away at your mansion, your empty mansion that's waiting for you. And that's why it's taken him so long, 2,000 years, because he's got to build all these mansions. um, and that is kind of a tragic thing because that impacts how we view God's eternal purpose and sort of sets us in an earthly frame of mind. Um, and so, for so many, the idea of the Christian hope is not the scriptural idea, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory and being glorified. That's what we're promised, is to be glorified, to be conformed to his image, and to reign with him as the expression of God and as his habitation. But instead, we like to think about streets of gold, and we borrow from the New Jerusalem, which is a sign that represents the consummation of all of God's work in Scripture, all of his positive work in redemption, dispensing of his life, renewing and transforming his believers, building them together, and filling them with himself to produce his eternal habitation. Uh, Instead, we just like to think of golden streets and look how big your mansion. I bet my mansion is going to be so big you won't even be able to find the bathroom. That kind of thing. Um, so anyway, when we have that kind of concept, we lose sight of God's real purpose, which is that God desires to build Himself into man and build man together to be His expression, and He wants to dwell in man and be expressed through man. And we see that in John 14. Um, so I'm just going to read through it and try to comment as quickly as possible to lay out this concept and kind of take it out of that idea. Let's get rid of the materialistic notion of what this means, that he's building mansions in heaven, and see what he's really saying. He says, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions." Now, this word mansions is an unfortunate translation here because it's not mansions, it's abodes. And that same word carries over. Uh, let's see if it's, yeah, Monet. It's a derivative of the same word that carries over into John 15, which is a continuation of the same conversation. Abide in me, and I will abide in you. The abodes and abiding are related. Okay. In my Father's house there are many abodes or dwelling places. Now here we have mansions because that's an echo of the materialistic view. Uh, if it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. Oh, where's he going? He's going up to heaven. He's going to prepare a house. He's a carpenter. That's why he became a carpenter. He's got hammer and tools, and he's up there, bang, 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 bang. Sorry, I'm not trying to make fun of it. This is my concept too. I'm trying to make sure that I have a solid word-based understanding of the truth. And he says, "If I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also. And everybody says, oh, there's the rapture, and they use the Jewish wedding feast, and he goes into the Father's house to prepare a home, and he comes and gets his bride in an unannounced time. That's all true, but I don't think that's what he has in view here, as we'll see. Um, and where I go, the way you know. So now the conversation is shifted to the fact that he is going, to where is he going, and how is he going. See, he says, where I'm going to receive you to myself, that where I am, by the way, that's present tense, where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. And Thomas asks, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? So now we're talking about where is he going and what is the way? Well, here's the way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man, and here's the where, no man comes unto the Father but by me. See, I am the way, and the Father is the where. The Father is the destination. If you would have known me, you would have known my Father also. And from henceforth you know him and have seen him. Now, this is a little confusing. They're asking he says, you know where I'm going, right? And you know the way. And they're like, wait a second. We don't know where you go. How can we know the way? And in both cases, the answer to the question is a person, not a place, and not a thing. If you had known me, right, you would have known I'm sorry, if I am the way, the truth, and the life, so there's the way, is a person, I. And no man comes unto the Father, there's the destination, another person, but by me. The way and the destination are a person. If you had known me, the way, you would have known my Father, the destination, also. And from henceforth you know him and have seen him. But still, that's so confusing. That would have blown their minds. They wouldn't have understood what he's talking about, especially since they weren't even born again. Philip said to him, Lord, show us. Now he realizes, okay, we're talking about the Father, and you just said we know him. They didn't believe him. Show us the Father, and it will be sufficient for us. Jesus said, have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He that has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say then, show us the Father? So Jesus is the embodiment of the Father. And that's what John is all about. John reveals that Jesus is not just on the earth as a man with his Father up in heaven, but Jesus is in the Father and the Father is in him. And all the works that Jesus did were to put the Father on display in his humanity. Jesus is always where the Father is, and the Father is always where Jesus is. Believeth now not that I am in the Father, and the Father in me. Remember, he's the way, the Father is the destination. Believe thou not that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. The words that I speak to you, I speak not of myself, but my Father that dwells in me, he does the works. So his life is a life of the Father operating in him. And everything he said came out from the Father's operation in him. Believe me that I am in the Father, and the Father in me, or else believe for the very work's sake. So if you don't believe that I'm in the Father and the Father is in me, look at the works I do and look at the words I speak. That's evidence that the Father dwells in me. Now remember, this is all about where I am going, verse 4. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Why? Because there are many abodes in the Father's house, and he goes to prepare a place for you, and he will come again and receive you to myself. Where I am, you may be also. Where is he? He's in the Father, and the Father is in him. Where is he going? To the Father. The Father is the destination. How's he getting there? Himself. He is the way. How is he going to bring you to the Father? In himself. No one comes to the Father except through him. He is the way. The Father is the destination, and he was already there. Where I am, I'm going to prepare a place for you, and I'll come and return and get you and bring you to myself, that where I am, you may also be. Where am I? Verse 11, believe that I am in the Father and the Father in me. This is the first abode. Or else believe me for the very work's sake. Jesus claimed to be the temple of God in John 3. Remember, he said, tear this temple down and I will build it in 3 days. And they thought he talked about the temple that Herod built, but this he spoke of his body. His death and resurrection was what he was talking about. He is the Father's house. The Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. And he was the first. But he said, there are many abodes in my Father's house. I go to prepare a place for you, right? And if I go, I will come and receive you to myself, that where I am, you may also be. Where am I? I'm in the Father. Where am I going? To the Father. Where am I taking you? Into the Father. How? Through me. That's how this is. Verily, verily, I say to you, he that believes on me, the greater works that I will do, he will also do in greater works than these. So I do, because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name, that will I do, that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask any in my name, I will do it. So when this is accomplished and you are brought to the Father, you will be able to ask the Father in the Son's name, and the Father will do the works. Jesus will do the works, just as the Father does the works in him. Then he says, if you love me, keep my commandments. And I will pray the Father, and he will give you another comforter, the Spirit, right? That he may abide with you forever. The Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it sees him not, neither knows him, but you know him, for he dwells with you and shall be in you. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. So here he's saying, I'm going to send you another comforter, right? But then he says, I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. So this other person that's coming is Christ coming. He says, you know him. He dwells with you. Just as Jesus was the way they know the Father, the Spirit is the way we know Jesus. I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you. Yet a little while the world will see me no more, but you will see me, because I live. You shall live also. All right, here it is. And at that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. There is what he's producing. What is he talking about? He's talking about his resurrection. When is this going to happen? When is he sending the Spirit? When he's risen and he goes to the Father, he sends the Spirit so that the world won't see him anymore, but we will see him. How do we see him? Through faith by the Spirit. And because he lives, we live also. How is that? Because we know in that day he is in the Father and he is in us and we are in him. This is the mutual abode. This is the Father dwelling in the Son, and the Son in the Father. And this is the Son sending the Spirit. And now by the Spirit, we have been brought into that union, so that we know that he is in the Father and we are in him and he is in us. This is the life of Christ in us in resurrection. He that keeps my commands, has my commandments and keeps them, he that loves me, and he that loves me will be loved of my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. Boy, this goes on and on. I think I'll stop it there. But you can plainly see that what he's talking about is the product of his death and resurrection, which is a mutual abode in which God dwells in man and man dwells in God. And this is what the New City Jerusalem ultimately is, which I'm going to talk about that in another time. But I hope you can see that this is not talking about the rapture. This is talking about resurrection, when he will not leave us comfortless, but he will come to us as another comforter, or by sending another comforter, so that we will see him even though the world doesn't. And in that day, when we see him in a way that the world doesn't, when we've received the Spirit, we will know that he is in the Father and the Father is in him, and we are in him and he is in us. This is what it means for him to bring us into the Father, or to the Father, through himself as the way. And Hebrews talks about how we've been given access to the holiest of all, which is God himself, through a new and living way which he consecrated through the veil of his own flesh. And Colossians says that we have been brought to God in the body of his flesh through death. He is the way, and through his death and resurrection, he brought us into God. By his resurrection, he gave us the Spirit, which brought us into that union with him and brought the triune God into us. Okay, I have to go. My 5-year-old's starting to get crazy here.